And we are live. So, welcome to episode number 69 of the Average Man podcast. It is Sunday, the 26th of April. And basically, I'd planned on doing a podcast with a guest today, but the person has gone radio silent on me this morning. So, I'm sure we'll tee that up again another time. So I figured I'll just come on here and just have a bit of a riff, just keep the continuity going. I didn't do a podcast last week. We had a few things on and it's was just kind of stress out the situation at home as well. So I skipped last week, so I definitely don't want to miss this week, this long weekend, Anzac Day weekend. I hope you all had a good Anzac Day yesterday. By the way, so this is episode number 69, Quarantine Days. The little track that brought us in at the start was a verse that me and my friend Eli were working on over the Easter long weekend. So anybody who's heard the those Easter long weekend podcasts. Sorry, give me a minute. I'm a little bit slow this morning. I'll get my roll on after 5 minutes or so. Anyone who's heard those Easter long weekend podcasts will know that I did a little bit of I tried to get a bit of a quarantine challenge, Headland to Mandurah kind of thing going with a little verse, a little beat and guitar riff that Eli made for me and sent through. I wrote a verse for it. I know he's written a verse for it, hasn't uploaded it. I sent it to a couple of other musicians and dudes who were into MCs and stuff like that to try and get them to do a bit of a verse. And I thought it'd be cool if we could get something going on. People that we know from Headland and all the way down to Mandurah, where Golden Bay anyway, which is where Eli's based as well. He knows a bunch of musical-minded people, as do I. So I sent the bat signal out to a couple of people and didn't really get any takers on it. So it kind of was dead in the water. But I made a verse. Took me ages fucking around with it because I haven't made music for many moons at this stage. Like before my boy was born was the last time I recorded anything. So that was over 5 years ago, nearly 6 years ago. So it took me a while to get back into the swing of things, and I'm definitely not 100% happy with it. I think that if I was practiced, like what I could do, the sound I wanted to go for in my mind, and how I hear it in my mind is not what I'm putting out, which is I think a big thing you get when you make music anyway. But definitely the gap there is pretty big at the moment. So it was fun though. I had a lot of fun. Pissed my missus off. I spent hours on the Saturday night. Having a few drinks on the couch, writing, and then rehearsing. And so she's sitting there listening to me. I've got headphones on with the beat playing, and I'm just rehearsing the lines over and over again, trying to nail it, and then recording them and trying to layer it and get it all done. Sounding pretty good. Thought I had it sounding pretty nice. Woke up on Sunday morning and listened to it, and it was just rat shit. I was drunk by the end of it, so it sounded like a party going on. And there was vocal tracks recorded over vocal tracks, and just got really messy. So I deleted it and started again, and sort of nailed it on the Sunday morning. It took up heaps of time, which is why I don't make music at this stage of my life anyway. Like, one, I'm not good on the production side of things. I don't have anybody to help me out and do that with me, who's easily accessible at this time of my life. So yeah, it takes me ages to nail that shit. I can write lyrics and I can practice them and I can get down the flow and everything. But to actually record it all, make it sound good and shit just takes me ages. So, but anyway, I did a little verse there called Quarantine Days, obviously about the session, obviously about the current times, that we're in at the moment, these weird isolation sort of COVID times, I like to call them, that we're amidst at the minute. So yeah, I hope you got a little bit of a smile on your face from that little verse. Good to use some of my own music for once instead of just plagiarizing other people's songs and putting them on the start of my podcast. You'll notice if you listen to this thing from the get-go to now, I used to just use like about under a minute of someone's songs to try and stay above board with all the copyright and shit like that. But now I kind of just put them up. If I like the song, I'll just let it play. No, not enough people are listening for me to get in trouble at this stage anyway. So if I start getting podcasts yanked because I've got too long of an intro on them, playing people's music, well, that's a good thing. That means we're getting some attention. Yeah. And any attention is good attention, as they say. Not any attention, but you know what I mean? Any media is good media, as they say. So yeah, I think we coming into week probably 4 of this isolation business at this stage of the game. And there's actually an end in sight, which is pretty good for us here in Australia. They're talking about starting to lift um, some of those restrictions maybe in another 3 or 4 weeks. So I guess by the end of May, we might be able to have barbecues again, and hopefully the gyms will open up and the pubs and cafes. We can start having gatherings at least outside and things like that. And I'm sure they'll slowly lift it, layer them off like they layered them on. But for some of those small businesses that'll be able to open the doors again, that's pretty awesome, man. And again, being able to have a barbecue and have 10 people at your house, that kind of thing will be pretty cool. So I think that's a really good thing to look forward to. And we were talking about that not happening for maybe like months. We weren't sure when it was going to be lifted. So hopefully that starts happening in at the end of May. But also, I hope the government stays true to their word of giving us free daycare for 3 months, even if the situation looks better. I'm pretty sure that's what they said, 3 months. So, well, it is. I know that's what they said. That's a big help for us. That's it's about $1,000 a fortnight in our pocket for my family. That's what we pay a fortnight for childcare is about $1,000. So it's a huge savings just out of nowhere for us, and work's been flat out. We've been working the whole time. My wife being a nurse, and I'm in construction, and I only get paid for the hours that I work. And again, the government have encouraged tradies and people in the construction industry, civil and construction industry, and mining as well to keep going, keep working, keep pushing the economy along. So we were always doing what was above board and what was sort of expected of us and needed of us, I think. And it's worked out well for us. I know that it's a shitty time and a lot of people have been stitched up by it. But for us personally, it's actually, aside from going a little bit stir crazy and getting bored and having to cancel our Bali holiday and shit like that, that's all small stuff really in the scheme of things. We're going to put a bit of money away and yeah, looking pretty. It was kind of styling through it, really, to be honest. And I was a bit worried about my parents at the beginning of the whole saga. But obviously, the strain on our medical system hasn't played out the way that they were thinking. We will probably, largely due to the fact that the government put all those strict restrictions down in place when they did, and that people have been adhering to it. And the social distancing, I guess, has been the main thing that stopped the spread of that, which is cool, that we got on top of it, that you saw it actually work. Because at the beginning it was go home, stay home, quit all your jobs, don't send your kids to school, don't go anywhere, can't fly, can't travel, can't do anything, and this thing's going to wipe us out. That was the message. And it's like, okay, well, you got to do all those things, but it's actually working and it's actually going to work. So there's a big positive light at the end of the tunnel, and we can see the fruits of that, all that sacrifice and shit and those restrictions now, which is pretty cool, man. But yeah, as I was saying, I was worried about my parents at the beginning of it, in their 70s now. My dad was still teaching at the start of this thing, so he was still in a classroom full of little bug carrying kids. Fucking who'd all be asymptomatic if they had it. He's a diabetic. We're Aboriginal as well, so we don't know. I mean, I don't think that specifically is going to affect you, but definitely prone to some more of those chronic illnesses like diabetes and some other chronic illnesses, and that's what that virus seems to be attaching itself to, people who are in that vulnerable bracket. Susceptibility, that's the word I was going for. And my mum is again in her 70s and she's got asthma and which, obviously a respiratory disease, or condition. So I was a little bit worried about those two at the beginning of this thing, but it seems pretty good. Like there's not that strain on the system. So, and again, we didn't have a community-based outbreak. It was all just people in direct contact with those who'd been flying overseas and interstate and shit like that, which is pretty cool. So I didn't reach their little northern suburb of Queen's Rocks up the north end of Perth there. So yeah, personally for us, still working, free daycare, parents are okay. yeah, it's been fine, to be honest with you. Massive life shift, life change. And that's one of the craziest things I think that has come out of this for me, is to see, we always know and talk about the adaptability of the human race, of people, but to see it on that scale across the whole world in such a short amount of time, like all your freedoms and liberties and ability to travel and if socialize and have fucking coffees and go to the gym and all that shit that we take for granted, go to the pub and have a beer, all that taken away like in the course of like a 2-week period. And then we all sort of adhere to it for the most part. And then how easily it becomes like just normal. I mean, I know people are itching to get out, especially if you're not working. It's a different kettle of fish, and I don't mean to be insensitive to people who have been really financially hit by this and are stressed out and all that kind of stuff. I know the government have put some, rolled out some, what's the word? The Centrelink welfare packages to help with the sting of that. But there's its own hassle that goes with that, fucking getting in the dole queue and trying to get hold of people on the line online, and then the mental side of having to receive cash from the government for a lot of people. That's just something that could be really not great for your mental health, and it's a stressful progress to go through anyway. So I'm not trying to belittle those people's problems and how this has affected them. I'm just saying personally, up here in Port Hedland, probably one of the best places in the country to face a pandemic like this, we've been pretty fine. We've kind of been sweet. And yeah, again, as aside from getting a little bit bored, not being able to do many things on the weekend, it's been pretty good. And to be honest, this time of year, I'm over the summer. I really am. I'm over it. I'm ready to just on the weekend, I'm ready to just chill inside, man. I'll go outside, peck around in my garden for a little bit in the morning, maybe go for a bike ride with my boy. Then we come inside and watch some movies and do some shit inside and make lunch and chill out, and the kids have a nap, and I'll do my podcast or whatever. And then maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon, go outside, do some gardening, mow my lawn. Maybe we go to the beach or something like that. And that's all I want to do, man. It's this bloody hot. I'm outside in the shit all week anyway. So, yeah, if it was the middle of June and it's beautiful outside and I can see the fucking ocean from where I'm sitting right now through that window, I can look over the top of the computer and see the ocean, and it's beautiful outside, and you'd feel like you're cooped up and I got to get out there and do something. There's nothing to do, all you can do is go to the beach, which is fine. But it's not. I think we're going to be outside and be allowed to do a lot of those things again all the time. We hit the nice weather here in Hedland, which is a bit of a bonus for us. The timing of it. And I think they're saying this virus doesn't do well in hot sort of climates as well. So the whole surface, the virus staying alive on surfaces for certain amounts of periods, so the hand hygiene and the hand sanitizer and all that kind of shit. I mean, we really don't have that much of a problem with it up here because of the fucking how hot it is and has been. So yeah, man, we're going all right. That's where I was going with that one. What else? I mean, I've learned a couple of new tricks in isolation. As I said, I put my first bit of music. It was just a verse, but my first little bit of music that I've recorded, done that for the first time in many, many years. Was motivated by the inability to do anything else over a long weekend. I've started doing these Zoom interviews. I've only done them with Eli at the moment. I was supposed to have one teed up today. I'll check my phone again, see if the person's written back now. But I'll be doing a few more of these moving forward. I will meet with people face to face when I can, but sometimes it's going to be easy to just do it over Zoom. I know that the lag isn't too weird. People can be comfortable in their own home as long as I can get good audio from their end. I don't know if maybe I hook them up with a microphone beforehand or whatever it may be, but this is something cool and new and different for me. And I'm recording this podcast right now, if you're just listening, via Zoom as well. So I'm going to start uploading them all to my YouTube channel, Average Man Podcast YouTube channel. I need to find out the name of that. It might just be called Average Man Podcast. I think it is. It's my YouTube channel anyway. There's only a couple of videos up at the moment, but I'll be able to start taking outtakes from this, as I get better at that. Maybe get some help from Eli doing that shit too. Get some outtakes, little clips, and put them onto the social media pages. And I definitely need to put a bit more work in on this podcast this year. It's been a bit like work's been full on for me. And then the thing that suffers is your hobbies and your spare time and your maybe passion for doing things on the weekend, because it's just so full on all week, and then hits the weekend, it's kind of like, oh, let me guard down, relax a little bit, have some slow starts to the day, have a few drinks at night. So to bounce up out of bed and organise a podcast and have my notes all written down and have done some research like I'd like to do during the week on whatever it is I'm talking about, even if it's just music or something, to do all that, that's definitely suffered at the moment. So I need to put a bit more work in to keep this thing moving ahead. I want to come out of at the end of this 2020 period with some positives. So yeah, but if you are listening to this and you're interested, you can go check it out, the video on my YouTube page. And that's another thing that's new that's come out of this whole period. So that's good. Speaking of video, if you're watching, you would have just noticed that little gap was me having a drink of me Great Northern out of the Average Man podcast, W Older. So yeah, look, I know I was going to be asking a few questions about the opening of small businesses and shit today, because there's people that have been laid off or put their contracts put on hold indefinitely, and I think at least with the word that maybe things will start opening up in the next 3 to 4 weeks, there must be some mental, like some relief, for people who are in that situation, thinking they might be able to get their job back, they might be able to go back to work soon, maybe they had to pick up another gig in the meantime. And they can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel for them also. So that's got to be pretty cool. And I know that people have been doing their best to offer online classes for like at gyms, Zoom classes and things like that, and online coaching and meal prep, meal plans and things like that, which is pretty cool. Everyone's got to do as much as they can virtually in these times, and some of those things probably stick. Some of those things will fade off once we can all hang out and touch each other again. Like, say, for instance, through work, I've got to do a course that was booked. It was going to be over in Brisbane later in the year. And they're now offering those courses online. They're doing it with a bunch of different courses now. I know people will know that through their own workplaces, that a lot of training courses that you used to have to go to and sit into a classroom, and people were probably thinking about going virtual, but they hadn't made the steps to get that happening, or they weren't sure if it would. Maybe if you're an independent company offering a course and you went virtual, maybe that you're worried that employers aren't going to like that. They'd prefer to send people into the classroom setting, because we haven't quite made that transition yet. So this has forced people to do that, to put those courses online and work out all the bugs on the fly. Like, look at homeschooling. People are having to homeschool and do things. A lot of schools are offering virtual programs at the moment, which is something that, again, schools have been, the thought's been there for a while, but to build that infrastructure up and then get people comfortable to actually pull their kids out of school and do it virtually, and it's something that was going to take probably many years, and there'll be a lot of people who had reservations about that, rightly so. And now people who have been forced into that situation, there's kids, thousands and thousands of kids across the entire country homeschooling and doing virtual schooling, and they're working out the bugs on the fly. So there's some good coming out of it. That's had a big push on that whole virtual training. I just think that as much as I love the one-on-one interaction face to face, I'm a traditionalist kind of guy. I think that this is the direction we're moving in, and it's just giving people a bit of a push. I'm also, while I am a traditionalist and love those things I just spoke about, I also love the opportunity that the internet and technology opens up. Me, just some fucking average dude, being able to run a podcast and see if I can say something interesting enough and market it well enough to get people to fucking listen and follow along. So that's my opportunity. And back in the day, you had to go through several gatekeepers to get your voice heard. And I guess now this is another way that we can take advantage of technology, and say someone who lives rurally and doesn't have the same advantages of someone who's in a city can get onto some sort of virtual classroom with really good schooling programs, good teachers, and they can maybe have some better opportunities as well from wherever the fucking bumfuck town is that they live. So there's some cool things coming out of that, and again, that we've kind of been forced into to kind of take them on Yeah, where we would have just pussyfooted around it probably and taken a long time to implement it, drip feed our the technology through to people, and you'd be a fringe weirdo if you took your kid out of school and put them in virtual classes and shit. Where now some people are just going to go, you know what, we did it for a whole term, and actually it went really well for our kid and our lifestyle. And if those classes are still available, we're going to continue to do that. So I'm sure there'll be some big changes coming out of. There'll be some big changes that come out of this and hang around in the long run. Are we going to have two airlines at the end of this? That's going to be a big change. If we do, is it going to be two? Is it going to be an Australian-owned airline? Even though I know Qantas isn't, but Virgin was still the majority of the shareholders were Australian administrators or directors, whatever they call them, were Australian-owned companies. So they were kind of an Australian airline. Is it going to be owned by a big Chinese company now? Are they going to give a fuck about the rural routes that don't make a whole lot of money, or is it going to be someone invested in the maybe the mining sector and the competition directly with those rural flights with Qantas, who's going to take that airline over, and is the thing's going to get better for us living here in Port Hedland? Are we still going to be able to catch a plane over to Bali for a 2-hour flight from here, or is that kind of shit going to get cancelled? And then there's people like myself who've got credits on flights. What are those flights going to mean for credited flights on an airline that's currently in administration with an uncertain future? We just don't know. Depends on the route that it is as well. We're going to Bali. Is that going to be available? So there's all these crazy questions. Things are up in the air. You can get quite stressed out about it if you sit there thinking about it too much, or you can kind of just be like me and go, yep, information taken in, processed, and just move forward and control what I can today, which is hang out with my kids, get them to have some quiet time so I can do a podcast, have a chilled out afternoon at the beach so I can get up and go to work tomorrow. That's what I can control right now. So that's what I'm doing. And hopefully, again, I know some people are in a much worse position than that, but hopefully that's something that other people can take out of this as well. Like when you've had a lot of your decisions taken out of your hands, your options, maybe we can just concentrate on the things that are right in front of us. Maybe we can try and put money in our bank accounts instead of spending it all and ticking everything up on credit all the time, because we know what the economy can fall out from underneath us at any time, or we can be told that we can't go to work. Maybe we start looking at growing our own veggies. I'm just looking over the top of the laptop at my new little veggie patch out there as well, and harvesting some of our own meat and shit too. Like, I know these are some of the more extreme ideas, going out and shooting yourself a camel or a kangaroo. But at the same time, for some people, it's an option. And those people like myself who haven't made any moves to actually do some of those things, I've been getting more involved in my fishing and spearfishing again, because it's a bit of a prompt, a bit of a boost, like get off your ass and go look after yourself a little bit more instead of relying on the system and the government and everything with your hand out so much, because, it's kind of fragile, really. A fucking virus has put us all on hold. And again, we've handled it pretty well here in Australia, but the US are fucked. They're fucked. Parts of Europe are fucked. We don't know what's going on through lots of parts of Asia, presumably fucked. China are sweet. Yeah, China are sweet. Honestly, they got to 81,000 cases, shut their doors, no problems, all good. They've fixed it. So if you believe everything they say, yeah, I got some fucking insurance to sell you if you believe everything China say. But yeah, so bit of a rant there, bit of a tangent I went off on. I told you I'd get a bit of steam up after about 5 minutes. But man, there's just fucking interesting times, and we're all processing it on the fly as we go. So I don't know. This is how weird my fucking brain is, right? I'm not enjoying not being able to do things like fucking go for a flight to another city or country, or go down to the pub and have a beer, or go to my gym. I'm not enjoying those things at all. But then when I'd mentally prepared for this like 3-month minimum period of restrictions, and they tell us they might open things up at the end of May, I'm such a fucking weirdo that I, like, in the back of my mind, I was thinking about it all week, and I was like, is that feeling really there? And it is really there. I get a bit of disappointment. Is that weird? Like, as if I was a little bit, and again, I don't mean to be insensitive to people that this is really negatively affecting. I'm talking about me, my lifestyle, in my lane. I start thinking, oh, it's a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, I feel like we're taking the cheats way out by by calling these restrictions off just at the end of May. When we locked down for 3 months. And again, I don't know what that's about. I don't know why my head works like that, but it just does. There you go. That thought's there. I'm a weirdo. When I ate vegetarian for 2 months, told myself I was going to do it. I think I said for a month. Did that, had one cheat meal at the end of the month, and then went on for another full month. And then at the end of that month, and I'd prepped myself, I'm going to be eating meat and all this kind of shit's going to be great. And I started eating meat again, and I felt like, I feel like I'm cheating. It was a little bit too easy in the end, just not eating meat for 2 months. I thought it was going to be harder than that. And then when it wasn't, I felt like I was cheating. So I don't know what that is, some weird fucking genetic fucking predisposition to try and put myself through hardship for fucking no reason in particular. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels like a month's not going to be that long. We'll all be out doing what we can again, on a personal, social level anyway. So, what else have I got on here, man? I got a little list here, pros and cons, which is, I guess, I've been kind of talking about during this podcast anyway. One thing I do want to mention, though, I got a little question to throw out there to the average men and women listening out there. What, with these restrictions getting lifted, starting, in 3 or 4 weeks from now, if things continue down the same pathway, I guess one of the first things that they put on was the regional restriction. The last things they put on, was the regional restrictions. Traveling between Pilbara and the Kimberley and the Gascoyne and those areas and down to Perth for anything non-essential. So you'd think they might lift that first, so you can get on I can get in the car and drive the Broome if I want. And then, like the social gatherings of more than whatever it was. I don't really even know. To be honest, I know the general gist of everything. I'm just kind of staying at home and doing fuck all, but I don't know all the numbers and figures and statistics. It's been too much for me. I've just kind of tapped out from it a little bit. But I think it's like you're not allowed to catch up with. So if you were to go out to the beach, you're allowed to catch up. Me and my wife could catch up with like one other couple, I think it would be. So then, unless they're like family or they live with you. So, I don't know exactly how it all works. But basically, that will be one of the things they lift. Again, you'll be able to go down the beach with 10 people. And then they'll work their way backwards, presumably. No one knows. We've never done this before, but presumably that's what they would do. You'd work way backwards from the last restrictions they put on would be the first lifted. But then when they come to the international travel, which was the first restriction put on, how long is it going to be until we can fly internationally again? I mean, if we're in a pretty good position, say come June, July, when you would expect they might start lifting those bans. Well, what's going on if the US is still dying by the tens of thousands every week or whatever it is? What about Europe if they're still the hotspots are still bouncing from country to country over in Europe? What about West Africa, like West Africa and things like that, where it's only just kind of hitting them now, and then there's Middle East, Asian and Southeast Asian countries that we don't have a whole lot of reliable information on. Like, am I going to be able to fly to Bali in, say, August, when just because things are sweet in Australia, or are they going to be shutting down international flight for a long time? I mean, that's still putting a huge strain on airlines, businesses, lifestyles. So it's kind of crazy. Like to think, I don't know, I kind of assumed that by August, September, October would be business as usual again, but will it be if it's hitting different parts of the world in different places, or is there just going to be restricted areas? You can fly to New Zealand, you can fly to Canada, you can fly to whatever places where things have turned around and they've got themselves back into a low what's the word? Well, anyway, they've got low rates of infection, or is it just going to be shut off the next 18 months? You can't fucking fly anywhere. Like, we don't know. That would be kind of shit. This kind of little happy-go-lucky, take it as it comes, I'm going to be in a pretty good position attitude that I've got at the moment will start to get pretty strained if I can't fucking go out of the country for the next 18 months at all. Again, there's plenty to see in our backyard. But there's, it's just that the option, then we've taken it for granted our whole life. If you get the money together and you can get yourself a passport, you can go fucking wherever you want in the world. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how long they leave that international flight restriction on for. And again, there's been a bit of discussion about how long people will take to go back to public spaces on their own. Like if you put on a festival or even just a music gig or whatever it is, are people going to be like hesitant to go to those once the restrictions are lifted, just because they're now, we're conscious of personal hygiene and viruses and how easily we can spread germs and viruses and shit like that between one another. Personally, I don't think so. I think, especially in the younger generations, I think people are itching to get back out there. I think once you lift up those bans and you say there's a fucking festival on, fucking, at Perth and X, Y, Z bands are playing, I think the fucking tickets are going to sell out. They're going to fly off the shelves and sell out. People are going to be keen as hell to get back out there and start living their lives again. That's my personal opinion, but we don't really know, do we? So I got a little list here of pros and cons, and then I'll sort of start wrapping it up because it's been good 30 minutes of me just talking shit into the microphone here right now. So look at pros and cons. Con would be mental health. This has been putting a lot of strain on people's mental health. And that's kind of a two-edged sword. Some people are enjoying the downtime. And this is my pro for that con, is that you also get downtime. So for me, someone that can't fucking sit still, and if I have a quiet weekend at home doing nothing, I feel really guilty the whole time, like I'm wasting my weekend, or I'm not giving my kids, the best experience they can have, or I'm being lazy, or I'm not making the effort to catch up with friends. Like I just can't sit still. When I do, I get these fucked up thoughts that run through my head all weekend, which force me to do things, and then I've got too many things on the go at once. So then not having the option to do really anything, all I can do is sit at home, do some little projects around the house, go out in my garden, do my podcast, maybe go to the beach. That's been nice for me, for my mental health. But then for people who really feel stuck and isolated at home on their own, not being able to be around their support networks, and again, stressed out about money and their kids and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be really bad on your mental health. So there's those 2 points to look at. Another con would be just the boredom. Just boring, fucking nothing to do. Can't go to live music gigs, can't go have a beer down the pub with your mates. But the other side of that is you're saving the money. Eh? You're not out blowing money on stupid shit that, you got no self-control to save. Now you've been forced to not spend your money on that. So if you're not out there spending all your money on internet shopping, which you probably are, but if you're not, then you should be saving some money if you've got a job. The strain on small businesses and businesses particularly that rely on face-to-face interaction, like pubs and cafes and gyms and shit. That's obviously a con, but a pro would be just that for us in Henley, we're in a good place for a pandemic. We don't have a lot of international travelers coming here. It's the FIFO workers. They've seemed to have figured out a pretty good system with them, keeping them separated and quarantined and extending people's time in town and shit like that. So that's all pretty good. And again, with the heat, the climate up here, probably too hot for those viruses to be sitting around on door handles and fucking shopping trolley carts too long and shit like that. There's obviously the loss of life. People are dying. Fucking, not good. But then there's the wake up call for people about their health, to be healthier and get their immune system in check, and maybe go out for a walk. You see people fucking out walking their dogs and families out on bike rides and shit, like fucking way more than I have. I can tell you, I can see the fucking beach path from where I'm sitting right now, and I can see the increase of traffic of people out there every morning, every afternoon, especially on weekends, even just after work. It's still hot. People are out. They wouldn't be out here normally yet doing that shit. So maybe people are a bit more conscious of that, spending more time together as a family, getting out, and maybe looking at being more self-sufficient, as I said, not relying on handouts and governments and all that kind of shit so much, because we know that this shit can just fall over if fucking someone with coronavirus sneezes on it. try to squeeze that little pun metaphor in there. Didn't really fit, but I jammed it in there. And then I guess a con for me would be more power to governments. They're definitely trying to slip some fucking shifty things in there. One thing would be this, like a virtual passport that you keep on your phone. So you got to have a smartphone. You got to take your smartphone everywhere with you, and it's going to have a virtual passport. So they say, if you got the COVID, you can show them you fucking did it. No, I'm clean, bro. So you're going to have the test. To again get a virtual passport, and then they're going to be able to track you everywhere you travel around the world on that virtual passport. So giving up more of your freedom and autonomy to the governments, so they can go, we know where this cunt's going. Which is not good. It seems like practical at the time, and then when everything's blown over, you're like, why do you need to know if I'm healthy or not? Like, what the fuck? Why do you need to know exactly where I've been for the last 20 days? It's just, not good. Get out of my pocket. There's that. And then I guess on the other side of that is the environmental advantages. There's places like, Vienna, where they can see in the canals, there's fish and shit again. You can see the color of the water's cleared up. The smog over LA and places like that is cleared up within like 3 or 4 weeks, because we're not out there just being dirty, disgusting, fucking a virus on the earth like we are. There's plenty of things happening where wildlife and environments and habitats are coming back super quick because we're just not there fucking them up. So it's kind of like, was this Mother Nature giving us a little bit of a fucking nudge, going, hey, you dirty pricks, just stop shitting where you eat. Give us a chance to recover here, or we'll fucking wipe you all out with a plague. So there's that, which is also a big pro. I think everyone would agree with that. Look, man, I think that's enough. Me talking, harping on. Musically, I've still been just hitting some of those Pierce Brothers, Teskey Brothers, chilling it. The other Aussie fella, couple of Aussie hip hop dudes and shit that I spoke about on podcasts previously. And I've been doing a lot of my blues playlist and listening to a lot of blues on the YouTubes, Gary Clark Jr. and some Sturgill Simpson, who's more country and western kind of rock kind of bass guy. So yeah, nothing new and fresh for me at the moment. Just playing some of those old, loving my hip hop and my blues and rich at the moment, or just blues. And also I've got a speaker and an amplifier on the way for my turntable for a record player. So watch this space when I start talking about my wanky record collection soon, and drinking craft beer again. And if I could grow a beard, I would one. I'd grow one, and I'd be here with the fucking beard, craft beer, talking about my new record collection. But watch this space, because that's going to happen soon. I can start spinning records with the kids on a Sunday morning and giving them the true analog musical experience, which I'm pretty excited about. Look, mate, that's it. Everybody stay, cliche as it is, stay safe, stay positive, and stay motivated more than anything else. Keep control of the things you can control of. Don't stress about the shit that's out of your hand, but don't let the government just fucking get a clean sweep. This is what we're going to do. You guys just lay down and take it. Like, if we can push back on things as people, we push back on things, but generally the details that you can't control, just roll with them, man. And control what you can in life. Stay healthy, stay positive, hang out with your kids and your family and shit while you can. It'll all be over eventually, won't it? And we'll just fucking be talking about, remember 2020? 2020 can suck a dick, and we'll just move on with our lives. So anyway, man, that's it. That's all I've got to say. We'll get my guest on. I'll have some guests on next week. Zoom guests, one way or another. So shit happens. People get busy. People get drunk and hungover and can't bother doing podcasts. I get it. So that's why I didn't name and shame the person, because I know it happens. Check this out on the YouTube channel. What you're doing, fuck all anyway. Just hook it up, put it on your TV, and then you can have my big weird looking avatar mug on your fucking screen talking shit. Like the page, subscribe to the page, like my Facebook page, Instagram page, share it, send it to your fucking mates, help me get the fucking numbers up. And that's it. I'll keep doing my thing. Average Man Podcast, episode number 69, Quarantine Days, over and out, motherfucker. See ya.